Come on!
Good gaming, everyone. Welcome to the one and only Neutral Podcast on YouTube. You can go anywhere to hear what you want to hear, but you can only come here to hear the truth. Man, I saw something on Twitter that really pissed me off. And this is what happens when the console warrior is louder than the consumer. Now you may ask, Boycott, what are you so upset about? First, let me set the table. This is a list of the most popular video game genres by revenue, right? So this is where the gaming market is. This is where the consumer is. I don't know if this is where the console war is. Some of them are here. Some of them are playing video games like it's a second job or first job, right? But this is where the consumer is. Looking at this list, how many on this list would you say out of the three first-party holders, meaning Nintendo, Xbox, Sony, how many of these genres would you say Sony is number one in? I'm looking. Maybe zero. Maybe horror. Maybe with The Last of Us. If you want to consider that horror, maybe that. Strategy is Minecraft. Shooter, Doom, Adventure, Zelda, RPG, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. You have your pick. Strategy, Minecraft. Sports, you can kind of throw that to Sony, maybe Nintendo. Puzzle, draw, idle is some phone stuff. Racing, Xbox kills. Nintendo has Mario Kart. But today I'm going to talk about number 11. So, I'm on Twitter and I see a Guerrilla Games, meaning Guerrilla Games, a studio owned by Sony, put a tweet out that says they want Aloy to be in Super Smash Brothers. Right? Your competitor, right? I don't want to hear about they don't make consoles or whatever, they make handhelds. There are people out there that will buy a Nintendo instead of a PlayStation. And instead of providing your potential consumer, your potential customer with a fighting game featuring Aloy, you want to feed it over there to Nintendo. Because your fan base says, your console warriors say all you do well is third-person action-adventure movie games. And you're not even the best at that. So instead of doing that, instead of really funding a shooter the way you should have funded Concord, which I think that's the real deal with Concord. I think that game was much bigger than it's ending up to be, or it's going to be released as. I think the console warriors got so loud and started gatekeeping that they underfunded their first person shooter, first person shooter in 10 years. That's what I think really happened. And this is the result of gatekeeping. You know how many people out there have been asking for a PlayStation AllStars 2. Doesn't have to be the same thing. They could have made it 3D. They could have done whatever. They could have made it like Street Fighter, whatever. They've been asking for that. And now, seemingly, because the gatekeepers, I don't want to say names, but you know them all. The guys that don't want VR, they don't want handhelds, they don't want shooters, they don't want racing, you don't want anything except for the movie games. Those guys, I don't even consider them gamers. Gamers play a large variety of games, right? That's why Game Pass is so interesting. I mean, you may have your opinion on what's good and what's not, but when you're a gamer, you play a large variety of games. That's why they're talking about feeding Aloy to Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Instead of creating their own fighting game. Even Xbox has a fighting game. They haven't really supported it the way they should have. But Killer Instinct is at least something. Sony, you own Evo. You own Evo. You have a console. You have a first party, and you have no fighting game. How does that make sense? You're one of the biggest publishers in the world, if not the biggest. You own Evo, and you don't have a fighting game for yourself. You gotta rent them. You gotta take part of them. It's time to stop listening to these console warriors. Even though they're very effective in their gatekeeping, and it's time to feed the consumers. It's time. On average, these guys buy 10 million copies of these movie games. They represent 10 million of the 120 million, right? Gamers out there that buy your console on average. On average, Sony sells about 120 million consoles. There's 110 million consumers not being served because these loud gatekeepers aren't attracted to anything but one genre. They're not gamers. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. I bought your console for $400. You should provide the fighting games, not Nintendo. You should provide things that I can play on PlayStation Plus against other players. Not rent it. Not get something I can get from other consoles. Not just that. This is the results of gatekeeping. And this is what I get so angry about. This is ridiculous. This is why I make these videos. I'm gonna stop it right there. How many people saw that and shook their head? I saw people celebrating this. Right? Instead of demanding Sony do what the other two console developers are doing, you're allowing them to be lazy. This is lazy. Just resting on your laurels. Remakes, movie games, sequels. It's lazy. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you see what I'm saying. I'm gonna leave it right there. You guys take care.